It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mains and Dutch. I'm your host, Mains, my colleague in a danger zone in Rainford. Or is he in Beavertown? It's Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
Visiting Beavertown, and it's a very nice place.
That was probably well funnier and more accurate when you were 21. Unfortunately, 40 with two girls, it doesn't make it as funny.
And plus, when I was 21, I never visited there.
Well, you know what I mean. In theory, yeah, obviously.
Yeah, we should apologise to the three people who listened for our not podding last week.
And not podding on Wednesday, and not podding yesterday.
Indeed. I say last week's pods were obviously you were busy, and I was having a low mental health day.
Yeah.
So I'm fine now. It was a bad day then. We move on, we press on, and we talk shite. So this is what we do.
We were going to do it yesterday, but we didn't, and then I was made up we didn't as a team, and Weird Blue won. So we won't talk about that because that's not. I hate that kit. It's not a favourite of mine, like. But,
it's not a Liverpool green.
No, because for a start, it's fucking blue. So yeah, it's definitely not a Liverpool green. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. What we've allowed now, given a week off, is a bit of space between us and the draft. So to get our thoughts, to get our feelings and review for our own teams a little bit, and then more specifically, because it's a fantasy-based show, which players / teams have benefited from said draft, and which players and teams have not benefited, because we like being positive and negative, mostly negative.
Spoiler alert, though, we will not be talking about the schedule because we knew there were going to be 17 games, and lo and behold, every team had 17 games. Gripping.
If you want to find out about the schedule, please follow the Twitter of Warren Sharp, who's big on it today. I'm with Neil. I knew we were playing, I just didn't know the order. I know the order now. Cool. But, you know, that's why the draft, the NFL is a 12-month-a-year news cycle, because you spent a week talking about fixtures of games that don't take place for another 4 months.
Yeah, and, you know, I've looked through the Eagles' schedule, and I'm confident it's going to be 9 and 8. So let's move.
Okay. Before we get on to the draft, though, let us talk some Weird World, as we've got some absolute classics this week. First one, Neil. I think we can agree, as we have combined 5 children between us, kids are awesome. Sometimes. When it comes to fashion, designer items by the likes of Chanel are coveted by many, not yourself, but that's a different conversation. The clothes, bags and accessories do not come cheap. So if you manage to have a Chanel product in your possession, you want to take good care of it. So understandably, one mum was devastated when her 5-year-old daughter got hold of a white Chanel handbag, which cost 2,000 English pounds, and drew all over it in blue marker pen.
Thoughts and prayers.
You might have thought the bag was ruined for good, but thankfully the parent came across the handbag clinic where experts restore bags. Awesome, by the way. Who knew that was? So there was a video restoration, and it was on TikTok where it got thousands upon thousands of views. What is the worst thing a child in your house has destroyed? Go. Or when you were a child, what was the worst thing you destroyed?
My mum used to collect pig ornaments. So almost
like on the bank?
No, similar to that. These were like, could have been all the policeman pigs, fireman pigs, pigs in suits, all kinds of pigs. And me and our Nicky were rolling a ball to each other for some reason on Christmas morning. And I threw the ball and I chipped the ear off one of the pigs that we'd just given to my mum.
Perfect.
That's the only thing I can think of, because
the girls not destroyers of items.
No, they're more. They like to push things to their ultimate tension without actually breaking them. Obviously, this also includes each other's limbs. They're not big on destruction. They're more just they just prefer mess.
Alfie dropped his Xbox on the floor and smashed it into pieces.
Yeah, your son doesn't sleep, so I imagine that this
That was the other one.
Oh, right.
So Max is the non-sleeper. Alfie was the dropper of Xboxes. I once put a pitching wedge through a couch and managed to hide it for 9 months and blame our dog.
Yeah,
Probably just said that on the internet now, and everyone's going to know.
Yeah,
sorry, Mum and Dad.
Pepper was very small. I highly doubt he'd have done. It would have stretched credibility for him to take the rap.
Well, they believed it long enough for me to not be dead. So such is life, and everyone's got to take one for the team. And it was Pepper's turn to take a bullet.
Now, this attitude will no doubt surprise you, given my fiscal freedom. For £2,000,
yeah,
I want this bag to be multifunctional. I want this, put this way, I want this bag to have a built-in modem.
Yeah, but you're a man, right? And you're not supposed to understand these things. Like Kate has a Louis Vuitton bag. It's a bag. It's got Louis Vuitton on it. She loves it, but let's be honest, it doesn't do any magic tricks.
No.
But sometimes you do things to make other people happy.
Do we?
I've heard it's a good idea.
Fuck that.
Let's move on, Neil. Florida teen charged as adult in rigged homecoming election. That's right. How much do you want to be homecoming queen? A Florida teen accused of rigging a homecoming queen election with her mother is being charged as an adult, prosecutors said. Emily Rose Grover was still 17 when she was arrested in March. She turned 18 in April, and the state attorney's office in Escambia County confirmed Tuesday that Grover will be tried as an adult. Grover and her mother, Laura Rose Carroll, 50, I assume also someone who rigged votes to be homecoming queen 30 years later, faced multiple felony charges stemming from an October homecoming vote at Tate High School in Pensacola. When employed as an assistant principal at Bellevue Elementary School in the same county, Carol accessed the school's internal system to cast fraudulent votes for her daughter so that she would win. The investigation began in November when Escambia County School District reported unauthorized access into hundreds of students' accounts, according to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. So, firstly, Neil, what would you do for your kids, and have you ever rigged a vote?
Rigged a vote? No, I don't think I have.
I think the only thing in those type of situations, I've rigged like numbers to make sure that I got on a good team in a football match. But
I actually, back when I was captain of the fifth team, I used to run Players Play of the Year, for the fifth team.
Yeah, of course.
So all the players were, given you picked 3 players, and we just counted up all the votes. And in 2010, I won, but I gave the award to someone else.
Nice. What a hero.
As it may relatives of mine who are female, have the same initials, would probably point to the fact that nothing would give me greater pleasure than to stand up in front of my team and say, and the winner of the Player of the Year is me. But I just generally did not feel comfortable. So I thought I'd recognise. Awesome. Yeah, I thought I'd recognise someone else for it. This is a baffling one.
How desperate do you need to be, homecoming queen, to get your mum to break into classified school records and then fix the election?
Yeah, that speaks of some deep-seated, neurosis that you desperately have to do this. It's dirty pool though to try her as an adult now. She wasn't an adult then, but it's the you're an adult now.
But by half an hour, she wasn't an adult. It's not like she was 14 and we found out 5 years later she was 17. She can fucking drive in America. Okay, to be fair, she can't drink for 3 years. What do you want to do, right? She can buy a gun in Walmart. Do you know what are you trying to say?
Yeah, we don't make the rules.
Exactly, we just have to abide by them. Neil, as always, we love Weird Whale during the off-season. If you have any to share with us, please send them to @waxing_lyrical or individually to me and Neil. at Endutton13, and I am at Mainsy7. That's enough of the nonsense. Let's get on to the NFL. Neil, the draft has been and gone, and teams are now in what I always find is positive mode as they think about all those undrafted free agents who are going to become Hall of Famers. I ask you, sir, as a first question in relation to the draft, did you have any highlights?
Dave Gettleman trading down and then realising that he was hooked on it and trading down again was obviously a highlight. The problem is with the draft. The problem with this draft is that a certain individual who I think we could accuse him of being somewhat calculating tried to hijack the draft for his own ego by sources revealing that he wasn't happy with the team he's at. To be fair, as I say though, this is an event where 256 people are going to defy the odds because of the thousands of people who play high school football, the hundreds of them play in college. For 256 of them are going to beat the odds and be drafted into the NFL. And one full of himself prick tried to turn that whole weekend into the Aaron Rodgers show.
I'm going to play devil's advocate for you. Because 364 days earlier, a team on the precipice of the Super Bowl decided to give a massive finger to the next MVP of the league and draft a quarterback rather than help him win the Super Bowl. So you know what? Vindictive things come back to haunt you. I guess we'll stay on Aaron Rodgers. We might come back to draft highlights. You dance with the devil, and this is what happens. Green Bay, since about 1992, you've had Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. What you're finding out is, I'm going to say a really rude word now, Neil, both of those people are cunts. Now, that doesn't matter really, because on the field they are both Hall of Fame talents and have led you to 2 Super Bowls, and some would suggest should have done more, but they haven't. But what we're finding out is they're not really very nice human beings and don't play well with others. Aaron Rodgers basically strikes me as, if you watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he has a book and he's got all the names of all the people in head office and the reason he doesn't like them. But guess what, Green Bay? And Green Bay fans, of which there are a lot, we know a lot of them. You could be Denver, right? So I don't want to hear no nonsense about we'll be fine when Aaron Rodgers leaves. I don't want to hear it right now. Because we don't know what Jordan Love's like, if Aaron Rodgers isn't there, you're probably the 3rd best team in your own division. It's just how it works. This is how the NFL rolls. You don't have to like it. You can disagree with me completely, and that is fine. But I think if Aaron Rodgers doesn't play, Blake Bortles, who, by the way, your head coach suggested, got the Jags to an AFC Championship game, so he must be good, would be the starting quarterback. I think it's time to be nice to Aaron.
I don't know how we can, because this is what do you say to him? Okay, we'll change your contract and we'll give you guaranteed money that locks you in as the starter till 2023. Well, what do you do with Jordan Love? You're going to have to see what he can do, or you're going to have to flip him. And I'll tell you this now: no one's given you a first round pick for him. A, because no one would have given you a first round. Nobody else would have drafted him in the first round last year, and the reports have not exactly been glowing. So
that's why he is in the ultimate box seat, because he doesn't want to be there, and they need him.
Adam Rank, who has too long been absent from this show, we need to get him back, said that Aaron Rodgers should do the Jalen Ramsey, turn up, report, and hurt your back.
Yeah, exactly right. The Phil Coutinho.
Yeah. Oh, I've done my back, coach. Better go and sit over there. You do hate to see it, but
So this is what happens when your team has an amazing quarterback for 30 years. Guess what? I have no sympathy whatsoever.
no. Especially as the last time we saw Rodgers on the field, he was being beaten by a team who went all in on a quarterback who'd been there 2 minutes. And organisationally, they just went, no, we'll do it his way.
Yeah, because you know why? Because that works. Neil,
Speaking of things that worked, that image that was posted on several social media sites of the 2011 coaching staff for the Washington football team, is it Shanahan, offensive coordinator, Sean McVay, tight ends coach, and Matt LaFleur as an offensive assistant. And they went, this was the coaching staff, and the team was 25th in points and 26th in yards. Yeah, because players matter. I think
they do.
Yeah. I think Mr. Belichick is finding this out now, isn't he? Players matter.
He's about to. Justin Fields, Neil, are you happy for him? Because he gets to play in a place where they will want to love him, and he didn't go to what he could do, which is most top quarterbacks go to, which are rubbish teams.
Well, it depends what you feel about the surrounding talent on the Bears. I'm not a particular fan of it, to be honest.
They're okay, I think. Yeah, but they're not garbage.
No. There is as good a chance as any that Justin Fields is the on-field version of Deshaun Watson for this draft. The quarterback who fell for reasons we don't really understand. I mean, everyone goes on. Mahomes got picked 10th. I didn't know who Patrick Mahomes was going into the draft, but I'd heard of Deshaun Watson. His fall was inexplicable. In the year of our Lord 2021, here is a narrative I would dearly, dearly like put to bed, because there is an important distinction that teams keep missing. Alex Smith was a very, very good quarterback in 2017. That is why Patrick Mahomes did not have to play. Andy Dalton is not at Alex Smith's level. He's just not. Jimmy Garoppolo is not at Alex Smith's level. You drafted these kids, you play them. Especially Trey Lance, what you say, Garoppolo's going to play this year, that's fine. So next year then Trey Lance comes in and he's played one game in 3 years. No, it beggars all logic. You draft him, you play him.
This is my favourite part of this part of the season, when I get told all the rookie quarterbacks won't be starting. And I'm like, cool, love that idea. Kyle Shanahan is going to see Trey Lance in practice 3 days and go, he's playing. Get rid of that other guy to someone else and out of my existence.
Yeah. The Chicago Bears are paying Andy Dalton and Nick Foles $19 million this year.
I have a Twitter conversation with our friend and esteemed author James Dixon on the he almost refused to accept Justin Fields as a Chicago Bear because it meant that Ryan Pace was still staying as a human. So yeah, he wasn't happy. Neil, let's get on to your team, and before we do mine, your team picked 10th, went with Devontae Smith, and then picked multiple others. I guess, how do you feel about said draft and the fact that you are the same height and weight as your wide receiver 1?
I don't like the draft.
Okay.
The Eagles have done this before. You're drafting injured players. Now, Landon Dickerson could be the best offensive lineman in the draft. That's great. He played 4 seasons at college and 4 season-ending injuries. Injured players in college become injured players in the NFL. It's the way it goes. I'm not saying you've wasted a pick, because maybe he can play. He starts his career as part of the rotation, and maybe that way it extends the shelf life of his NFL career. Devonta Smith, we're chasing outliers, and I don't like doing that. I find it difficult to get behind outliers when you, as a front office, have shown you can't even identify standard talent. Devonta Smith, as I said, everyone's got great things to say about him. And, you know, that's fine. You can't argue with the production. He's an outlier. I don't like chasing outliers. This draft could produce 2 or 3 very good players. Could I tell you which two players are going to be good? No, I can't. They all have question marks. All of them. There's no surefire hits on this draft. People will say that Devonta Smith is because he's automatically the best wide receiver on the roster. Low bar to clear.
Pretty low.
I think you're fine. Yeah. There is a good chance, however, that these kids, because they are kids, let's be honest. I'm 40 years old. I have to acknowledge that these are kids. The Eagles needed to get younger, and they have. So they've injected some youth. A lot of the youth is going to be surrounding players of a good standard. So the likes of, Milton Williams and Marlon Tuipulotu, they're going to be watching Juwan Hargrave and Fletcher Cox, and they're going to be learning and rotating behind them. That can only be good for them. They take a cornerback in the 4th round who's probably going to start. Ideally, would I rather have taken Asante Samuel Jr. in the 2nd round or Landon Dickerson? I think I'd have been safer and I'd have felt more comfortable taking Samuel or someone of that ilk than Landon Dickerson, who I'm told is wonderful, is a great leader, but he's an injury-prone player. And this is the problem. And the Eagles keep doing this. So it's not a draft that fills me with confidence. I know an awful lot of people who know an awful lot about playing, player evaluation, like Dane Brugler, Daniel Jeremiah. They like this draft class. That's great. The Eagles have shown me no reason to give them the benefit of the doubt that they can develop these players. And I just think there's an awful lot here of, well, it could be great. I don't live in that world, so I don't love the draft.
I do like the idea of getting Smith and pairing with someone who he has played with before to add that additional level of confidence, camaraderie and know-how, considering I assume the off-season programme will still be not as stunted as last year, but probably just as stunted. But yeah, I mean, if you go to Washington, Jamin Davis in the 1st round, linebacker, it always becomes the problem, I believe, when you draft at this particular place of getting the right type of players. Davis is someone who will boost that front 7 and will start. You want a starter. You're not getting a quarterback at 19, and they were not willing to pull the trigger on getting. Well, they probably were never going to be able to trade with the Giants, for example, like the Bears did to get to 10, but they weren't willing to pull the trigger on that. And I'm not going to attack them for that, to be honest. They picked Sam Cosmi. I don't expect him to start, especially now with Charles Leno playing, but I think that's a good thing. I look at De'Ami Brown, and that's the one that I always like, because you see him and you go, ooh. You look at the plays that they show you and his tape from North Carolina, and you go, explosion, and the type of player that you want when you've got someone like Ryan Fitzpatrick who's not afraid to chuck it. Am I going to tell you I know that all these lads are going to start? Well, no. But I think where Washington are very different to where they've been in the past, they are supplementing a roster that has talent on it. And that's always a good thing. I think for them, they kind of tried to sort the offense through free agency, and they've tried to assist on the front 7 with the draft. Am I concerned that the cornerbacks may be a little light? Yes, but we shall see.
The thing off-ball linebackers are like running backs. In my opinion, you don't take them in the 1st round. Could Washington have taken another offensive lineman in the 1st and still taken Cosby in the 2nd? I think so, because I still don't think the offensive line is a strength. I think that would have been a smarter allocation of resources to have done that. But Ron Rivera apparently has seen his Thomas Davis in Jamin Davis.
Yeah.
And Ron Rivera, former linebacker, has had stud linebackers everywhere he's been. If he sees someone like that, he's going to set. And we know that Ron Rivera has an awful lot of power and influence. He's going to take him. Wouldn't have done it myself, because for the same reason that the signing of Leno says to me that Cosme is not going to be ready. Well, if this is going to be a redshirt year or a rotation year, why not get a more sure pick first and then develop Cosme behind him? Darby Brown, love it. I think I'm always more comfortable in an offense where there is a trio of receiving options, and now you could argue Washington have now got 4. You've got Terry McLaurin, Logan Thomas, Curtis Samuel, and Darby Brown. He's one of those. I don't expect him to lead the team in targets or receptions, but believe me, he'll lead them in yards per reception.
Yeah.
John Bates at tight end wasn't asked to do an awful lot as a pass catcher, but that doesn't mean he can't do it.
Yeah.
George Kittle didn't catch passes.
No, exactly right. He was at Iowa. Tight ends don't catch passes. They run people over.
Two teams linked by Ron Rivera and Marty Herney spent draft picks on long snappers. Get to fuck.
It's beautiful, isn't it? It's beautiful, and not only is it beautiful, the man's name is Cheeseman.
Yeah, he should have gone to Green Bay.
It's beautiful,
but I don't understand that. And what I didn't like as well is Washington traded with the Eagles for a pick next year, so they gave the Eagles a pick next year. Next year's draft is going to be better. That was a bad process move. It wasn't a huge pick. It wasn't like we haven't got the Washington first round pick out of it, so the Eagles are going to end up having 12 picks in the first round. But it's still the players that at the rounds that Washington took these players from the picks they got from the Eagles. These are any other year's undrafted free agents, but you're spending draft picks on them. Whereas next year the talent pool is going to be bigger and deeper, and you've handed a division rival not a blue chip, but another chip that'll be more valuable.
I do wonder why teams do that, but anyway, we'll move on from our own teams and we will look fantasy wise now and go whose fantasy values were improved. I will go first, and that improvement goes to a man who I am very, very happy for, and that is Mr. Allen Robinson, who has had a litany of garbage QBs and now has the chance we don't know how Justin Fields will be, but I hope that he will have a quarterback in Justin Fields who is talented, accurate, and allows him to be happy as a wide receiver, because I don't think that's ever happened before.
Yeah, there is a good chance now that maybe Allen Robinson sees his targets go down, but the quality of target will go up. So therefore he can actually enjoy some increased efficiency. There is no doubt that Allen Robinson has eked out his NFL career and college career with a litany of shit quarterbacks. The fact that he hasn't even taken the field with Justin Fields, and Justin Fields is already the most talented quarterback who's ever thrown in the ball, is a testament to this. Assuming that Robinson comes to the table and signs his franchise tag tender, he could have a very, very good year. Because, let's be honest, the cupboard's still a bit bare in terms of the other pass catchers. Can I stun you? The Chicago Bears still have Jimmy Graham on the roster. It's the 14th of May in 2021, and you still have Jimmy Graham on your roster.
I think he's doing like $9 million against the cap as well, right? But they cut Charles Leno.
They cut Charles Leno, they cut Kyle Fuller, but have kept Jimmy Graham. Good God, man. It's a good move because we assume... it could go one of two ways. Andy Dalton is the quarterback, Robinson takes the field, and Dalton force feeds him the ball.
Yeah.
Or Justin Fields is quarterback, his targets go slightly down because they want to run the ball a bit more, but the quality of targets goes up, therefore his yards per reception and his touchdown equity rises.
Who was your first pick, Neil?
My winner, and I'm going bold here, and I'm going to, by all means, remind me of this when it goes spectacularly wrong.
I thought you were going to say record this. I'm like, it's a podcast, mate.
Yeah. You cannot look at the Detroit Lions draft in any way, shape or form and tell me that TJ Hawkinson isn't a big, big winner. The Lions added nothing. Apparently the Lions tried to trade up to 4 for Kyle Pitts. That surprises me. But they didn't get it. So Hawkinson he does his best work on the field in the area that Jared Goff does his best work, i.e. between 5 and 10 yards from the line of scrimmage. We know that Goff's not going to go deep, but let's be honest, he's got no one to go deep to in Detroit. Terrell Williams, Rashard Perryman, Quintus Cephas, please. So while we know that Detroit are going, they want to chew kneecaps and pull arms out of sockets and establish the run with Jamal Williams, and no doubt Adrian Peterson when he re-signs, they're going to be behind because the defense is still trash. And so what's it going to mean? Hawkinson's going to be on the field and he's going to be force-fed targets. Easily, I think, 150 targets a year this season for TJ Hawkinson. So I'm saying not only is Hawkinson a big, big winner, but on volume alone, TJ Hawkinson is your tight end 1 in 2021.
Speaking of players who are number 1 in their position, I see your tight end 1 and I raise you wide receiver 1, AJ freaking Brown of the Tennessee Titans, because in the exact same way that the Lions did nothing in the assistance of or to stop TJ Hawkinson getting fed the ball, neither did the Titans. So therefore, it goes without saying that AJ Brown may get more targets than a running back would have in the 80s when they were running like 40 plays a game. Why are you not throwing it to AJ Brown 40 times?
I mean, AJ Brown ran a pass route on 91.7% of his snaps last year. That was outside the top 30 among all wide receivers. But he averaged the second most fantasy points per route run. His target share was 25.8%, and that was with Corey Davis, Jonnu Smith in the team. They're gone.
They're not there anymore.
Who do you replace him with? Yeah. Who do you replace him with? Josh Reynolds? Really? Anthony Ferguson? Come on. I love tight ends, but even though they're going to want to run the ball, Derrick Henry has carried the ball 681 times in the last 2 regular seasons. There have been 4 playoff games in there as well where he has had considerable work. All the targets for AJ Brown, because we've seen how efficient he is when he's targeted. You imagine those targets going up to 9, 10, 11 a game. Oh, good God. And plus we know the fact that when AJ Brown wants to score a touchdown, there is not a force on God's green earth that is going to stop him from getting in the end zone.
There's only one force that would stop AJ Brown from getting into the end zone, and that's DK Metcalf, his college buddy from Ole Miss. They were both on the same team, and that team was shit. And fire everybody else. But that is an irresistible force meeting a movable object, as a Gorilla Monsoon would say.
Listen.
Of course. Neil, final one.
Jalen Hurts, as the Eagles were handed an opportunity to take Justin Fields and didn't take it. So they reunited Hurts with Devonta Smith. The shower narrative, they were obviously together when Hurts was at Alabama. And I think that we've seen now that the Eagles are going to try and give Hurts the full year. Whether that means he's the starting quarterback in 2022, I wouldn't like to say. Because the Eagles have potentially 3 first-round picks in 2022. The Eagles' schedule doesn't look great. Schedule talk, I know. But the Eagles have 5 of their 6 NFC East games in their last 5 games of the season. Thanks for that. Hurts is a winner because he's got a established target, and also he's got a vote of confidence. And we know that Hurts and the Eagles are probably going to be running something like a diet version of the Baltimore Ravens offense. It's probably going to be quite run heavy, and that means quarterback run game. So his fantasy appeal just going up and up.
Neil, let's go negative because that's how we roll. Whose fantasy value decreased during the draft?
If your team makes a player the highest drafted tight end in NFL history, they're going to use him. When that team also declines your 5th-year option, you're not getting targeted ahead of that 50, that tight end. So it's hard to look at Hayden Hurst as anything but a loser over the last few weeks. Hurst was productive last year, but he got by on volume because his yards per reception was outside the top 25. Are you having a blackout or something?
No, someone's accidentally switched my Alexa off. Carry on.
Yeah, so he wasn't particularly efficient. He got by on volume. That volume's gone now. So while we know that if we can assume that Arthur Smith is going to take some ideas with him to Atlanta that he had in Tennessee, they're going to be heavy two tight ends. But I think when they're going to be passing to one of those tight ends, it's going to be Kyle Pitts. Although, seriously, Pitts is going as the tight end 4 in best ball drafts. Tell you what, why doesn't he just retire now? And then we can go to Canton in 5 years? Or should we actually let him play a game first? My God, people. He's going ahead of people like Mark Andrews and TJ Hawkinson. He hasn't taken a snap. He's a rookie tight end.
Neil, we did a fancy draft on Monday.
Oh, God.
Dynasty. He was numero uno with a bullet. And we can laugh, but the person who picked him has won the fancy championship 2 out of the last 3 years. So I think he knows what he's doing. And that was your bit as well. For me, just so we know, it's the 14th of May, 9:30. Right now, the losers are the Denver Broncos. Because they haven't got a quarterback. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. And they picked a cornerback at 9 with Justin Fields still on the board. There's only 2 possible suggestions for this. I know he's not necessarily in charge anymore, but someone locked John Elway in a room and it was soundproof. Or they have an Aaron F. Rodgers plan. Because there's no way, with all the talent you've got in that team, you would draft another cornerback after signing Kyle Fuller. When you have no quarterback, it makes 0 sense.
Yeah. And as I said, I'm not a fire everyone guy. That's your shtick.
That's my shtick.
But coming out and saying, we like Justin Fields, but we felt a cornerback was better for our team. It's 2021. Grow up.
It's just wrong.
Yeah, if that's how you think, you have no business building a team. I know he's a good cornerback. He may well be the best cornerback in this draft. He may well be the best cornerback taken since Jalen Ramsey. He's a cornerback. If you like the quarterback and you also like the cornerback, when your quarterback options are Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater and you take Patrick Surtain, fire. Go and do something else with your life. It's time to, as Chuck Noll say, it's time to get on with your life's work.
It's tough to argue.
Backward.
Neil, who's your final fantasy loser?
Final fantasy loser. It's a shame because he's a player that I do have a lot of time for, but it's the fact that the situation is not right for fantasy, and that's Rashad Bateman. Going and being the number 1 wide receiver in Baltimore is, and this is a favourite phrase of mine, it's like being the best singer in One Direction. It sounds quite impressive, but ultimately no one gives a shit. As we know, they're not going to throw the ball. You're going to get 5 targets a game because you're going to have to compete with not only the fact that your quarterback does his best work over the middle of the field, which is where Mark Andrews plays, but also your quarterback is a lock to run the ball more than every other running back on the team. So while Bateman is going to have his moments, I think he's going to be one of those players that he's going to be great in real life because he's going to do the dirty work. He's going to get in there, he's going to block, he's going to stick his face in the fan. He's going to do what coaches love. Unfortunately, fantasy players don't. So it's hard to say that unless, Lamar Jackson decides, balls to the wall, I'm slinging the rock 50 times a game, which is not going to happen.
Who's his offensive coordinator again?
It's Greg Roman.
Okay, then that won't happen. Just double checking.
Yeah, and why throw when you can Roman? So yeah, it's hard to like this from a fantasy point of view. He may have weeks, but I think they'll be hard to quantify.
Final one for me, Neil. We talk regularly, and we are, I guess, card-carrying members of the Zero Running Back Committee in fantasy, and all those number 1 RBs at locations such as Denver, such as San Francisco, such as Jacksonville, who you were thinking of drafting, are now like, okay, you drafted Javonte Williams in the 2nd round. oh look, you drafted Trey Sermon. Oh look, you drafted Travis Etienne in the first freaking round. When you the process of the Jacksonville Jaguars getting a player at the bottom of the draft to be the best rusher in the NFL, to then not thinking I won't use him this year, I'm going to draft one in the first round, is nothing short of criminal. But you know, I'm already feeling sorry for Trevor Lawrence, let's just put it like that. But yeah, outside of that, Neil, this is why running backs have a shelf life of about half an hour, because you're always just drafting the next one.
The problem is with the Jacksonville Jaguars and their taking of Travis Etienne is that Urban Meyer, who, as we know, is a prick and a huge fan of Urban Meyer, the way he's talking, he's not talking about Travis Etienne as a player that he wants to use as a traditional running back. He's talking about a player that he wants to use the way he used Percy Harvin. So this is someone who's going to get the odd carry, the odd target. He's talking about someone who's an offensive weapon. Okay, but you couldn't have got one of these later in the draft. You know, you couldn't have taken that. So instead of you just had to take this player because Trevor Lawrence likes him. Aside from the Trevor Lawrence pick, which obviously was, we saw Ryan Grigson win Executive of the Year for falling into Andrew Luck once. This Urban Meyer era is not going to end well. It's not started well. As we've seen with the other team, the Broncos, Melvin Gordon. I wouldn't go planning any house parties in Denver for the next few months because you're on the Leonard Fournette track. And also, Trey Sermon. What is a starting running back in a Kyle Shanahan offense anymore? I don't know. He doesn't have one. Their running back 3 played 38% of the snaps last year. He rotates. He wants backs who can play in his system so he can rotate, because he looks on them as ultimate pawn pieces. They are put in to be churned up and spat out by his precious system. So while we should, Trey Sermon is probably quite talented, is probably has more upside than the likes of Jeff Wilson or Raheem Mostert at this stage of the game, they're all going to play. None of them are going to catch the ball, because when they do decide to throw it, they're going to throw it to Kyle Juszczyk. So they all have... all these players were drafted that should sound the death knell for the running back that they're replacing. The only one that I would say that is definite is in Denver, because Javonte Williams is an actual legitimate threat. Whereas, as I say, in Jacksonville, it looks like they're just going to wreck our head. And if it comes down to, no, Travis Etienne is going to be our gadget back. It is between James Robinson and Carlos Hyde. I'll take James Robinson.
Yeah, I think you're right, Neil. I think you're right. And that is where we wrap up and say bye to winners and losers. Neil, where can people catch you until we are with us again?
This week on the Twitter, well, most weeks on the Twitter, I'm at Endutton13. I have written a piece about MVP candidates for Number Fire. I have a piece coming out next week, I think. It's looking at the landing spots of all the rookie tight ends who were drafted. Also, as well, I'm playing around with the idea I'm going to do Twitter Q&As during the week, probably on a Wednesday between 8 and 9. So obviously, any questions you want to ask, please feel free to ask me them, and I will answer them between 8 and 9, obviously before Sewing Bee comes on, because I do have to watch that. But other than that, at Endutton13.
Totally blindsided me with Sewing Bee there. I'm at Mandy7. This week I started doing some draft reviews for the touchdown.co.uk. Today out came the Dallas Cowboys, who went all defense all the time and also said be damned to character concerns. But I will let you read that. For a change. I should just, on that, going back to the original point, when I watched the Great British Bake Off,
I can pick up things, so I can then apply that knowledge to later shows, like what a ganache is, and when we should use things like that. When I'm watching Sewing Bee, Kate's telling me all these things about darts and gathers, and I'm sitting there, yeah, okay. And then next week I'll go, what's a gather? And it's I can't retain that knowledge for some reason. Don't know why. Also, as well, as much as everyone is beautiful, as we know, we all have beautiful. There are more hotties who do Bake Off than do Sewing Bee.
Well, there we go, Neil. There we go, and that's the news. If you want to share your Sewing Bee thoughts, we're at waxing_lyrical. Until such time as Neil is back and I am back, and we're talking Sewing Bee again. These top guys are out.